Hello, welcome. Hi, how are you?
Hola.
Right. Welcome to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. Who do we have today?
We have Tasha, better known to those on the socials as Sanabi. I have a podcast, A Black Girl SOS, available on all platforms. Check it out. Follow us on Instagram. And in the daytime, they pay me to be a lawyer.
Awesome. All right, Tasha, I know you're super awesome. Like, you're amazing. So, you're
Hi.
one of the first persons who came to mind, and I was like, I gotta get Tasha on here. So, thank you for coming on and doing
For
what you
having
do.
me.
Yes. How you been? How's things been going for you?
I have no complaints. I really don't. I mean, I could complain, but who would care, right? All things considered, things are good. It's winter and I live in Florida, so I'm not complaining.
I saw someone said like 2020 went home, changed his wig, and came back.
Yeah, January was long. January felt like 3 years. It was a long month.
What's your pandemic prediction? Are we like at the tail end of this, or is this going to be another full year?
I I I predict that it's going to be another full year, but by midsummer, people aren't going to give a fuck.
Right. We've been there. We've been there. That was
I'm gonna be honest, like no one gave a fuck last summer, and last summer it was bad. Like we didn't even have a vaccine last
right.
summer, and people didn't give a fuck. Now that we have vaccine options, um, I'm confident that City Island will be packed again. And so,
Do you feel like it's about safety, or do you feel like there's some other agenda?
do I feel like what's about safety though? The vaccine or just people coming back outside?
Like the level of which, like we know the virus exists. So the
Right.
question is like the level of the push, the all right, you have the vaccine, but you still have to stay 6 feet apart. Okay, you had it already, but you still had to stay 6 feet apart.
I
You know,
do I do think it's about safety because there are various like mutated strains the the um of the virus. So I mean, to date, I think just like yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, I read that there is another mutation to the mutated UK strain. So I do think it's about safety. I think as long as the strain is mutating and quicker than scientists can really get a hold of what's happening with the strain they already know about,
right.
it's going to be what it's going to be. And 6 feet, yeah. First of all, I've been asking for 6 feet since before the pandemic. Black people everywhere have been. Like we in the supermarket and you write on our back, give me 6 feet. I support the 6 feet. I have been begging for it for eons. So I'm team 6 feet. Keep your goddamn distance. But I do think that it's safety because a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but there are people who are asymptomatic. So you might not have, you know, you might not show the symptoms and you might be fine, but you still may be able to pass it to somebody else. So yeah, I mean, I've always thought there's a value in giving people their personal space anyway. So I lean into thinking it's safety. I tend to trust science more than I trust clickbait. So
So these people just don't care about their safety, or they just willing to risk it.
I mean, we live in a YOLO society,
I mean, people are like,
which
if
is
I
an
get it, I get it.
but it's not YOLO though. That's the thing. We live in a YOLO society, but YOLO's not the actuality because you don't only live once. You only die once. You
Right.
live every day that you wake up, but you only die once. So once you nail death, it's a wrap. So you might want to consider. I mean, listen, I'm not knocking anybody. I have traveled during the pandemic.
Where'd you
I've
go?
worked for me literally to every hotspot to every hotspot just because that's where my life is stationed in all the hotspots. New
I
York,
mean, you went on planes,
LA. Yeah, I went on planes and I did with
you
the
went to the
exception of
hot
having to
spots,
wear
and you still alive and glowing.
with the exception of having to wear a mask though, these are all things I was already doing. I always used to wipe my seat down. People used to make fun of me for the Clorox wipes, and now everybody's team Clorox wipes. So I was always, about keeping this clean and this, that, and the third. And yes, I am somebody has traveled and I'm still healthy and thank God glowing, but I have followed all of the rules that I was told to follow. I quarantined when I traveled. Um, I've been COVID tested at this point, probably as much as a first responder. I always get tested before I leave, when I land, before I leave again, when I land. Like I said, I do the quarantine. I keep my 6 feet. I wear my mask. Sometimes I wear two masks.
You know what I just thought about? There are people out there who, like, when they're socializing, right? They'll be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, let's take a picture," and then right as they're about to take the picture, they're like, "All right, put your mask on." Like, there's a big thing, like, where people are still actually doing stuff, but when they take the picture, they put their mask on, they get 6 feet apart, and they're like trying to maintain the social norm. Like, just now when you said you traveled, you were like, I did quarantine. And it's one of those things, like, you could be in literal trouble if you actually don't quarantine, right?
Oh, fact. The state of New York was on my ass. They text you every day, they email you every day, they call you. Apparently they show up at some people's doors. I knew they weren't coming to mine because I stay in Brooklyn and the Bronx. They ain't popping up on me. So I'm not really
Need to
concerned
get in the
about that.
building.
I'm not concerned about that per se, but yeah, I mean, if you do what you're supposed to do for the most part, I think just be responsible. Just be responsible in all things. Because even after everyone gets vaccinated, no one is still going to be 100% safe from getting COVID, right? So we're still going to need to do all the things we're supposed to do. So you may as well just get yourself in the habit now. Like, it's not, this is what it is. This is the now normal. This is where we live. This is our space. This is our reality now. Just get with the times and get over it.
So the announcement for the Brooklyn half just got made. It was either today or,
Good day. I didn't see
yeah,
that.
that's out. Brooklyn half is out.
Mm.
So, they usually announce it January, that's gone. So I don't know what's gonna be left.
I'm gonna be honest. New York Roadrunners can't get my money for anything except, like, the only thing I planned to run was the anniversary marathon, and what with that having gone out the door, they kiss my ass. Like,
Wait, but I saw them still claiming that the next one is gonna be the 50th.
well, because well, because they didn't host this one, so that one would technically be the anniversary race. And I don't know, I may not, but literally the anniversary marathon is the only thing they could get $1 out of me from. And right now, it's touch and go, so I can't commit to that.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't even planning on touching on the road runners because I don't know, but it's been a lot of shake. The New York Roadrunners, to me, since 2012, it's just been getting shakier, shakier, shakier. Like, I've been hearing so many things
It's
about
got
Roadrunners.
since Mary left. Once she left and they got a new president, shit just went downhill swiftly because it stopped being about like the totality of the city. And not that it was overwhelmingly about the totality of the city when she was here, but I do feel like people outside of the Upper East Side felt more seen when she was still here. And then that went down the toilet.
That's Mary, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then was it Peter? He stepped up behind her,
Hmm.
and then he was there for a couple years, and then he just left, and then
Yeah.
the other guy, I don't know. Then there was a lot of drama. I feel like you know more about that than I do.
I know probably exactly what you know. I know what I see on the socials because I stopped fucking with New York Roadrunners a long time ago. I stopped fucking with them when I lived in New York, and I haven't lived in New York in like 3 years. So
I'm a big Roadrunners fan, not necessarily of the organization, but the community that rallies around it, and coming out in the event.
who I'm curious. Who is the community that rallies around it? I'm very curious. Who's the
Everybody who's
community
there,
that rallies around it?
when I say rallies, the people who show up and run these races, those people, but not, I don't know if anyone really. like is a diehard Roadrunners. I love the organization. I
But
think
that's the thing. The larger amount of people that show up are the people that are getting intentionally ostracized from Roadrunner events. And races are going up and going up and going up and going up. That's not an accident, right? And races are, you can barely get a race in the outer borough to begin with.
right.
And now the races in the outer boroughs, pre-pandemic, um, it just doesn't get as much, it doesn't get as much support and advertisement. It doesn't get the same notoriety as like,
It still sell out though.
it's going to sell out because we live there and we're the ones that are buying it, but we're the ones that they're raising the rates on.
Right. I mean, I remember in 2013, you could walk up on race day and get a and register for a race, and that's
I have no recollection of that. I don't think I lived in New York then. Was I in? Yeah, I was in New York. I was back.
yeah. You could, on race day, races weren't sold out. You know, like you could actually walk up to a race and get into a race. So little by little, they started selling out to the point where they were selling out in 2 days, and
Yeah.
simultaneously the rates went up and
Yeah, but a lot of that shit is like urban run culture that did that.
right.
That's urban run culture that did that. But we're exactly the people that they don't tailor to. Like they don't cater to us. We're exactly who they don't think about at all.
What are they
Even
not
when they
doing?
have their bullshit little panels about race relations where they have white people talking to us. What?
What weren't they doing?
What were they doing? On top of the fact that from what I've read and heard, that they harass people that work, like the people that actually work there, they are harassed, they're underpaid, and various forms of harassment is what I've read. I've read various forms of harassment. So they're not treated well. Then you add to the fact that
See,
they
what
don't.
surprised me about hearing that, I'm like, this is a nonprofit. Like you're selling out. Like, why are you
That's
giving?
on brand though. That's on brand for nonprofits. I started at a nonprofit when I first graduated. Nonprofits ain't shit. All that shit don't mean nothing but a tax filing. That's it.
But I'm saying
Nonprofits
it's
ain't
not
shit.
like they're worried about profits, worried about image. You know,
They
I,
are worried about image though. They are worried about image, and they're worried about sponsorship, and they're worried about extra money. I'm sure that's going to somebody's fucking pocket. They absolutely are. These big races aren't free, and New York Roadrunners isn't footing that whole bill.
right, right.
They're worried, yeah, they're absolutely worried about their reputation and the way they look and the way they present.
So you think
Absolutely.
they're concerned about look? They want to appear white.
Uh, yeah, yes,
I mean,
very
and
much so.
I mean that's very much similar to the runner's world, right? And at one
Hmm.
point we were like asking for more representation from runner's world.
We were not. Y'all were. I'd ask them motherfuckers for shit because I don't fuck with them. I'd stop fucking with Runner's World a million years ago. A million years ago. And all this shit did was prove me right. No, Runner's World can never get a dollar of mine. Even when people I know are on the cover. I
Right.
take a picture and I keep it pushing. I'm not buying
You
shit.
see, and that's the thing that I find. The more I have these conversations, you think you're talking about one thing. You think, oh, this is just something in the bubble. But then it all kind of comes back around to the same thing. Why isn't there a black runner magazine? Do we
Well,
need?
there is now Mid-Stripe Magazine. There is now.
I'm sure you have your subscription already.
I do. I
I
do. It's
know.
online.
Okay.
It's online and it's really good. It's an online magazine and it's actually really good. They do a good job. So
Is,
so
is
far
it
so good. I've been
is it
enjoying
based
it.
in New York?
Huh?
Is it based in New York?
No, I want to say, are they based in New York? I feel like, damn, where maybe they are. I really don't know where those guys are based out of. I know one of the people that's attached to it. She's out of New York. I don't know where the two guys are out of, to be honest. But yeah, they do a good job, and so far so good. I hope that it gets even bigger, and if it makes sense, goes to print one day. But I enjoy their magazine.
So one of the you asked me what we're going to be talking about today, and a large part of what I wanted to do with the podcast was to get some more conscious voices out there, have some more conversations that, I feel like there's a lot of noise on the internet, a lot of nonsense, and there's also, you know, educated, well presented things as well. But I wanted to add to the positivity. Uh,
Okay, fair enough.
African American entertainment. Now, we've all heard what Hollywood has done to Black movies and Black movie stars and those kinds of things. Um, why aren't we making our own movies?
We are though. We are in droves. We are.
So don't
We
even.
are in. We are in droves. We weren't before because we didn't have the resources to do it. But now we live. First of all, we live in an era where you really need minimal resources to make your own projects,
Your
and
iPhone.
that's why we have so many different like versions of ourselves available for consumption now because we are making our own projects. But on a large scale, like large Hollywood, large productions, absolutely, like so many big names have like production deals and have movies out, like movies that are written by Black people, directed by Black people, produced by Black people, starring Black people. Shonda's got a crazy contract at Netflix. Regina, she just did One Night in Miami, which was amazing, and that came out on Amazon. And that's her directorial debut, and it is, I mean, phenomenal. She just got, actually, I think they just announced today that she was nominated for a Golden Globe for it. It is phenomenal. We got Lena, we got Kenya Barris, Tim Story, Ava DuVernay. We've got a lot of Black Hollywood now. But for a long time, we didn't have it. The gatekeepers were not giving us access. And we needed access before. Now that we don't need it,
Do you think things are better? Like, do you feel like you just said, we just said,
better, but like a centimeter better.
right? We just said that Roadrunners is trying to appear white, even though a large majority or a large population is there, they want it to appear a certain way. Like,
Mhm.
is there a similar kind of energy in Hollywood?
Always. I mean, but that's never not going to be the case. Never not going to be the case. It's Hollywood. It's literally the whitest place on earth. If they could make it whiter, they certainly would. They certainly would. If they could
Why
make,
do you think that?
if they could cast Martin Luther King as a white man and get away with it, they would.
Why,
They have casted Nefertiti as a white woman before, so
well, why do you think that is?
because it's America. America's white as hell. America is white as hell.
We
All of
know
this
that
is in,
we know that white people are less than 50%, right?
but
And
America is very intentional. So it's like there's no like, oh, they didn't know, or I don't understand why this is happening. It's happening for the purpose of perpetuating the superiority that they love to pretend is a real thing for them. It's all intentional. It's not like you can't find Black actors. It's not like you can't find Black producers or Black, executives in the industry. You can, but they do what they want to do intentionally, just akin to Running World. Like not having representation is absurd when Black people dominate every distance in running, like literally every distance. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not an accident. It's intent, and it's intent because they're really clear on what they want their message to be, and they have the ability to put their message out, and that's what they do. I mean, they literally casted a white woman to play Nefertiti before. This shit is not. This shit's not accidental.
I
And
mean, so 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 right. So here's this thing, right? Like I said, I've stood in a number of places, and you could be with complete strangers, and we all just standing there, and the conversation comes up about one thing or another. We could be talking about running, and it's like, come on, and a lot of people don't seem to know.
who's the lot of people that don't seem to know though? Are they white people or are they Black people?
Well, well,
Because
well,
Black people seem to know.
well, let's say white people. Why don't white people see this?
They do know. It doesn't behoove them to see it. it does not behoove them to acknowledge that they are a part of the problem. They reap the benefits. They reap the benefits of all of this. So it doesn't behoove them to say, yo, I see that and that's fucked up. There are absolutely white people that do see it, that call it for what it is. But in, speaking in a general sense, most white people don't acknowledge it because it doesn't behoove them. It doesn't benefit them to acknowledge it.
I mean, if
So
you were an executive somewhere and you were like, why don't we make more black movies? Why don't we? So that would have a negative consequence for them, or
well,
people.
it had a negative consequence for a long time until the point kept getting proven over and over again that black movies sell out. Black movies sell out. Like they do extremely well at the box office. So at some point, the excuse became no longer. I think a great example of one, not leaning into big Hollywood, and two, proving that black movies sell out is Tyler Perry. He's the perfect example of that. He started his shit out of his car. He started with his stage plays, his movies, for whatever anybody wants to say about them, early in the beginning, were real homemade, homey type of looking shit, but they sold out. They sell out all the time. Black people show up for their content. He was talking to us and we showed up to see us. And it kept selling out and it keeps selling out, which is why he got his own studio now and he don't need Hollywood.
He's a
He
billionaire.
filmed his shit in his own back lot.
Do you feel like? How do you feel about Tyler Perry stuff? A lot of people give him negative.
I love Tyler Perry. I don't give a shit what nobody got to say. Even the shit that I don't think is good, because I don't think all of his content is good. I don't think all the content is good.
Do you
I
think he
definitely
has negatively portrayed the black experience, or
nope, not at all. Because the black experience is not a monolith. It's not one black experience. Your black experience isn't mine. So if I portray my black experience honestly, and it's not yours, are you going to tell me that I portrayed it wrong? No, this is my truth. It's just not yours.
I mean, there's. So I'm just trying to make sure we get this out, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
say, um, so you have, like you said, there's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of different things. Do you feel like there's certain aspects of the spectrum that dominates more? Not from Tyler Perry, just in general.
No, I understand the question. I don't. I would say prior to maybe like the last 5 years, absolutely, obviously. But I would say in the last 5 years, no. In the last 5 years, we've been getting more of the spectrum of the black experience, whereas before we only got this.
Right.
And I would say up until like 5 years ago. So it's a real neophyte experience to be able to actually get the black experience on the spectrum. So you might not see yourself in the Tyler Perry, movie, but you might see yourself in something that Ava DuVernay does, or you might not see yourself in that, but you might see yourself in something that Lena does. You
What
might not see yourself in that. You might see yourself in something Issa does.
what was that movie with the butler? The Butler?
That's the name of it, The Butler.
Yeah, The Butler. So I mean, you get what I'm saying. You have you have a movie like The Butler that comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and you have black executives, and you have like the full. You're saying in the last 5 years, I think, you know what?
The Butler's old as hell. The Butler's old as hell.
The Butler rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I'm not a fan of The Butler. I don't think
I wasn't a huge fan of the movie either. I didn't think the movie was bad, but it wasn't one of my favorites either. But again, it's a movie from this era though. It's not anything that came out in the last 5 years. We were literally pigeonholed for the bulk of time. Up until 5 years ago is when you really started to see different versions of the black experience. You can literally throw a dart and you can count on your hands every time you've seen a different version of the black experience up until recently. It was always the butler, the slave, the drug dealer, the baby father, the baby mother, same shit, the same trope all the time.
I feel at one point we had movies like Love and Basketball, like I felt like we had more movies at one point.
I don't think we had a lot of movies then. I think we had like a small sect even then. We had Love and Basketball. The fact that we can name every movie that was there lets you know we didn't have a lot. And between the two of us, I can literally sit here and name all of them.
Right.
So we know it wasn't a lot. Because if it was, we wouldn't be able to name them.
I mean, one thing I like about you is that like you're more knowledgeable than I, and I have to acknowledge that. Like you're naming stuff that I'm not onto yet. You're reading this into that, and I'm like you're a little bit of everywhere, which is
I
like
have too much free time. That's why. You
I
got
like
kids. You're a
that.
busy man. You got kids. You're a busy man. I ain't got no
But I
kids. So.
like that you're able to bring out another side, and like a part of what I feel, it might be outdated, and you might say no, that's not currently we're moving here and this is happening, so it's not like it was, and these kinds of things. So I like that viewpoint, and I'm excited to say um it's called Judas.
Oh, Judas and the Black Messiah. Oh, let
Very
me tell you,
excited about that.
HBO Max over the weekend, HBO Max did this 3-day our own story event, and they basically hosted several different panels by many black producers, directors, actors, writers, and it was awesome. So I went to like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of the panels. The first one I went to, they did like a not a screening, but kind of like an in-depth with Fred Hampton Jr., with the girl that plays Deborah, the mom, and with one of the costume designers from Judas and the Black Messiah. And oh my God, it was amazing. It was just an amazing, amazing, deep conversation. To have Fred Hampton's son on the call, on the panel,
So where
like
was
talking to us
it?
about
On
his
HBO?
experience. It was all virtual. HBO Max hosted it virtually and it was free. I like posted it everywhere.
Was it on HBO or is
No. It was like they had like a conference, so it would normally be like something that they hosted at Sundance, but obviously the pandemic.
got
So it
you,
was like a virtual conference.
got you.
And it was man, it was dope. It
Let me
was
ask you
really,
this,
really dope.
and you can tell me if I'm wrong, right? We
Hmm.
know the Black Panther did hella good.
Yeah.
We know they stood for a lot of positivity. We know all of those things, right?
Hmm.
I'm huge the Black Panther, the actual Black Panther
Yeah.
supporter.
Hmm.
Now, for them to make this movie, the minute the trailer opens, I am a revolutionary. You
Hmm.
got chills, and I was like, I felt it in the first 5-10 seconds. I was on
Yeah.
board. I was like, I'm gonna see this movie. There was no
Absolutely.
first 10 seconds, but as the trailer unfolded, it basically is the story of how one person sold out this guy, or in the movement at that particular time, more or less. That's what I got from the trailer.
I don't think that that's what the entirety of the movie is about. I would definitely say don't short sight yourself by going off of the snippet that is a trailer, right? The trailer is 2 minutes, the movie is 2 hours.
Right. No, I'm not saying.
So and I'm telling you, they were heavily involved with the making of the movie. Fred Hampton Jr. and Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and his mom, who popped into the set every now and again. But Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. was very involved with the making of the movie. The movie has a lot of authenticity to it, and it touches on a lot of real moments that happened during that time. So I would say don't rob yourself of not going to see
No, I told you, first 10 seconds, I already bought my ticket. I'm
it.
already there. I got HBO Max. It's already queued up. Like
Queued up and ready to go.
I'm there's no
Also,
about it. I think what I was saying was that like I didn't like the fact that you know that element of the story was brought to the forefront.
why it's a truth to the story though.
I'm just
That see
a lot
this is
of
my
truth.
problem. This is my problem with storytelling, or with people who want the story but don't want the truth, right? These are the fucking facts. So either you want the story or you want some curated version of what happened.
I'm not
And
saying don't
and it's
tell
not,
the
and
story.
this is a story, hold on, because this is a story told by the family. This is a story told by people that were present. So this is people telling us their actual truth. I don't gotta like it. I don't gotta like that this is your truth, but it is the truth, and I just want you to tell your story. I want Black people to be able to tell their story truthfully, without needing to qualify it and without needing to tailor it or make it palatable. Everything that happens in the Black experience isn't good, right? Black people get to be whole people. Some of us are good, some of us are bad, some of us are indifferent, some of us are amazing, some of us are the bottom of the fucking barrel. Everyone else gets to be a whole person. Every other demographic gets to exist as whole entire people. But with Black people, it's always like, well, if you're not going to show the best of us, then you keep it in the closet. Don't say nothing. No, you need the full story. Understand how we got to where we got. Understand the dynamic of the relationships. And some of that shit isn't pretty to watch, but the truth is necessary. Otherwise, we repeat it.
Now the other correlation there is the I'm gonna just touch on this briefly, and I think I was probably the only person who saw this. The Black Panther, the Marvel movie, when that got made,
Mhm.
and I think you already answered that with that last thing you just said. But I was a little bit, I didn't feel good that it ended up being the two black guys fighting.
It's
And
a Black country. Who else supposed
oh,
to be fighting for the throne? White people?
I wanted to see the Black Panther movie, like, I just didn't feel good seeing that. Was it just me? Did you hear that anywhere else? Did you think that at all? Like,
Well, one, I did not feel that way at all because nothing else made sense. They're fighting for the throne of a Black country. I would have been pissed off if he was fighting anybody else but a Black person. Who else should have access to the Black throne but another Black person? Also, I didn't hear that. This is the first time I've heard it. Doesn't mean it hasn't been said. Just means I haven't heard it, right? But tribes in Africa exist. People, tribes in Africa
this is
absolutely
what I'm
exist,
saying.
and
This is what I'm saying.
I don't think
Trying
that
to
white
look
people
at
are
a black
coming for the
superhero
thrones in
movie,
Africa.
like when you see the first, whatever movie, you don't want it to be about infighting. I mean, can you? No.
No, because it's not honest. It's not honest. It's not honest. It's not honest. The movie opens up. They go get Shorty. They come back because Pops is dead, and they have the formal ceremony day. During the formal ceremony, everyone gets offered an opportunity to fight for the throne. You all have a right, because this is your country too, and your family's also royalty. You also have a right to ascend to the throne. This is how we ascend to the throne here. Do you want to fight? Nah. Homeboy came down from the rafters and was like, actually, I want the smoke. I went to school with him. He came down, he wanted the smoke. He didn't win. Everybody moved on. We have a victor, we have the king, we move on. I really didn't see any issue with it. I don't see any other version of the story that would make sense because who else would be fighting him for the throne? Like, who else? It's a Black country. The white dude? The white dude ain't eligible to be the head of Wakanda.
He wouldn't even got in. He wouldn't even got let into Wakanda.
This is what I'm
I hear
saying.
you. I hear you. I'm just saying, for the first movie about Black Panther, I wanted it to be something else. Maybe an alien army trying to get into Wakanda, and they were fighting them. That's all I'm saying.
Now we have to lead up to that. Listen, the MCU is a very well curated piece of the MCU. I stand. I listen. They do phenomenal work. The way they long term plan their series and their movies. Listen, Chef's Kiss. Good job. I loved it. Saw it in the movie theaters more than once. Saw it in
It's a good movie.
4D.
It's a good movie. I'm
I
not.
saw it in
I'm
4D. I
not
needed
saying
my
it's not a
chair to
good
rock.
movie.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but nah, it doesn't.
I'm watching a movie about your family, and it's a movie about you and your mom fighting. Like, yes,
Shit, me
yes,
and my
you and your
sister
mom
are fighting
fight.
right now. It's completely authentic. Me and my sister are fighting right now. It is authentic as fuck.
I just wouldn't want that to be the first thing you saw. It is what it is. I'll let it go. It's fine. It's fine.
That was excellently
Who's
done.
your favorite rapper
Jay-Z is a no-brainer. I quote
all
him
time?
daily, all time. I quote him daily.
Is he better than Biggie?
Yes,
Better than Biggie.
yes. I know people are gonna fight me. It's fine. I fight.
At what point did was
I honestly, it's not even a fair question just because he died so early and we didn't really get into all of Biggie's body of work. Um, Biggie being alive a little longer, I might have a different opinion, but this is where we are.
I mean I think career wise he's the best rapper, right? Um but Biggie's my favorite rapper. Like,
I can respect that.
I still
That
listen to Life After now. Like, it's still my go-to.
I can respect that. I'm a big Biggie fan, so I listen. You ain't gonna get no arguments out of me. I can totally respect that 1,000%. 1,000%. Like I said, if Biggie had lived longer, this might be a different conversation. But for me, it's Jay
Definitely,
Z.
it would
Period.
definitely be a different conversation. Do you feel like rappers have a responsibility
A responsibility to what?
to their audience, to the black community?
I feel like everybody's got a responsibility to the Black community.
Do you think they're living up to that responsibility?
Oh no, no. Most of them ain't. And ironically, the ones that people talk the most shit about, your Jay Z's, um, they're the ones that actually do put money back into the Black community. But you know, you can't win for losing, right? If you boast about giving back, then people knock you for, oh, you know, you just doing it for show. And if you don't say anything, and then they assume that you're not doing anything. So you kind of can't win for losing.
Do you feel like Jay-Z has done enough?
What's enough? Is he supposed to cure cancer? The fuck is enough?
Yes, like, hey, like you said, everyone has a responsibility.
I
Has
think I think he absolutely does what I think he does what he's supposed to do. I don't know if he's doing enough. I don't know the grand scope of everything he's doing. I don't work at Rockefeller. I don't know what the fuck's going on
see,
in detail, but I know enough about some of his local philanthropic endeavors and his national stuff to say that he gives back a lot. A lot of people gives back, and he don't just give back. He take care of a lot of other motherfuckers. Rap a lot of people's faves. A lot of people's faves, he takes care of them. Like your fave really don't got that bag. Like that nigga couldn't get out of jail. He didn't have lawyer money. He didn't have tax money. Jay-Z's been putting a lot of people's bills
I
for
heard
a
that.
lot for a long time. But it is what it is. But I do think that they have a responsibility to the Black community because they eat off of the Black community. Period. I feel like everyone who benefits off of our culture, off of our economics, off of our swag has a responsibility to the Black community. Period. Figure out your lane to give back, but you need to give back.
So I'll just say, yesterday I'm like, I'm hanging out with the boys. We're playing Monopoly. I'm like, all right, let me just try to play some music in the background. And I just put on like the top 40 kind of thing. And
Mhm.
all the songs, all the rap songs in the top 40, I had to like skip over them because they're like cursing, and it's like still it's there was in the top 40 that I played yesterday. So I don't know. I don't feel good about how a lot of the music is coming out. And I mean,
I'm not a big fan of a lot of new content, so I can't.
I feel like it's been a progression, right? At one point,
Well, I feel like it's been a regression. Like we're going backwards instead of going forward. But the era dictates the music. That's always been the case. The times dictate the music. and we just the
what so yeah, I don't, so a part of like, so I've kind of struggled, like you said, with the boys, just like picking what I expose them to, how I
Mhm,
expose them to it, what I play, what I don't play. And at one point, I felt like I just stopped listening to a lot of things, not because I think it's wholeheartedly bad, but it's been painted a certain way. And, from the way women get talked about, to the N word, to cursing and drug use, I feel like it's oversaturated. And I think it's been that way since coming out of the 90s.
mhm,
So I'm not even going to fault the new guys and say, like, oh, these new guys, I feel like it's been like that. And I think for me, when I listen to it, I'm able to get the underlying message. They may be talking about dope, but they weren't saying let's sell dope. It's saying find a way to, there's always a way, kind of thing. Or, I'm not gonna let her play me, no one's gonna get over on me, as opposed to you should treat everyone this way.
mhm,
So it's been kind of like you kind of have to apply this kind of third eye thinking to it, to me, when I listen to it. Whereas if you're 6 or 8, or you're not really thinking and you just listen to it at face value, you can kind of like say, like, oh my God, this is telling me to do X, Y, and Z, or to think a certain way. And
mhm.
my concern is it's permeated to the point where it's being normalized, and it's spreading to other cultures. And when I say other cultures, like, I'm Jamaican, so I hear a lot of.
Please, the shit that Jamaican, bro, let me stop you right there. Let me go ahead and stop you right there because you and I both know. Okay, please don't play the game with me, Lexi. Alexi, please. Your little island don't make nothing but inappropriate music. That's it. And you're listening to it from the womb. Please, please, please. I can eat saltfish and some disrespectful shit on the radio. Go ahead.
But
Go ahead.
this is what I'm trying to say. This is what
That
I'm
shit
trying
ain't
to say.
permeate from the hip hop culture. No, no, we're not
Wait,
gonna say that
wait,
shit permeated from rap. That's bullshit.
wait. Listen to 90s reggae. Okay?
Bro, I grew
90s,
up on reggae. I've been
hold
listening to
on.
reggae my entire life. You full of shit.
Listen
Nah,
to 90s dance hall. Listen to, listen to early Beanie Man. Like,
sir,
it wasn't like,
sir,
now, if you
sir,
started, and I don't want to
sir,
single.
sir. They said to burn the chichiman. Sir, they said to set them on fire.
Hold on,
Sir,
hold on.
sir.
A lot of
You
that was
can't no,
coded.
this
A
I
lot of that
cannot
was
tolerate.
coded too.
This I cannot tolerate. Trying to say that rap permeated like reggae cultures and shit like that is bullshit.
All right,
Because
answer this.
that
Answer
music
this.
was also out of bounds from jump also.
Hold
Also out
on,
of bounds.
hold on. I fully agree with that, and I have a whole lot set up for that specifically. Okay, um, the violence towards homosexuality in the music. Absolutely, I'm gonna talk about that. But there was no use of the N word in dance hall. True or false?
I can't say that I recall any use of the N word.
There's no N word. The Jamaicans don't
So
use
no,
the N word.
wait. So no N word, and it somehow means that the music was better because there was still a lot
I'm
of.
not saying.
There
I'm
was
not
also
saying.
derogatory shit towards women. There was all type of crime, drug selling. All that shit was also still in reggae music. So just because they're not saying nigga, don't make the music less fucking vulgar and less a part of the problem. And definitely doesn't mean it permeated from rap culture. That's nonsense. That's massive nonsense. Massive,
Wait. All right.
massive
All right.
nonsense.
So I'm trying to like handle the issue like diplomatically and like lay it out. But you're like jumping into the heart of it, which is fine.
Because the heart you. You can't say that rap. You
are
literally
you
said that
saying,
rap permeated cultures. And then you said, when I say cultures, I mean, because I'm Jamaican. Bruh, no, it did not permeate your culture. Okay, your
I
culture
want
had
you to
its
go
own
and
vulgar
listen.
music.
I want you to go and listen. That listen, you listen to
The
that music
music was
now.
already vulgar.
You listen to that now. It sounds like it's a hip hop. It's trying to be hip hop between the N word, the I'm trying to floss, throwing money in the air. Like
But that's not my point. My point is that it was already vulgar music. It was vulgar
I'm
to
not
begin
saying it
with.
wasn't, but you can see that they're now taking new elements and bringing it in. Like, oh
But
y'all,
that's the arts. That's the concept of music. That's the concept of the arts. The arts are supposed to evolve. It's not supposed to be stagnant.
so my
Especially if you have the audacity to want to be a successful, lucrative artist. Your music can't be stagnant. It almost has to cross boundaries if you want to make some money doing it.
so here's what I'm saying, Tosh. Here's what I'm saying. Hip hop is powerful and it travels the world. And I'm saying to you, with the N word being blared on every CD, every single, every it's pushing this message out there.
Pushing what message out there?
That
Enlighten me. Enlighten me. Pushing what message out there?
all right, you picture a hip hop video
Mm-hmm. What era?
right now.
I go ahead.
But let's do it this way. Picture a hip hop video from any
Mm-hmm.
era, okay? You picture any video from this, not any video, you picture a typical video from this era. There's expensive cars, the foreign, there's bikinis, and I'm not.
That's that's more our era. That's more our era. That's our era.
So, but hear it out.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that's our era. Go ahead.
Okay, the image of drug dealing, um, the N word, the car, all of those things, right? So now in Jamaica, where we grew up hearing songs about weed and ganja, now is, oh, I'm selling da 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 da, and so
You, yo, your naivete kills me. Yo. So y'all was only selling weed in Jamaica? Is that? I just want to be clear. Is
I'm
that your
trying to
story?
say, I'm trying to say that this hip hop music is popularizing images, and people are
And
taking
I'm
the
saying you full of
images.
shit. And I'm saying you're full of shit. And that's that. So we're gonna have to agree to disagree. For one, the era of music that glamorized drug dealing is not current. That is when we were growing up. That was the 90s.
But that's
That
done.
was that these motherfuckers are drug users. Now I know that you don't like I'm not huge on new music. I don't think most of it is good just because most of them don't have any lyrics. Like they're just not lyricists, so I don't think they're good, right? They'll say the same thing over and over, and then they'll call that shit a song, right? That's not a song. Um, so for that reason, I'm not into the new music. But this era of musicians or rappers, I don't want to call them musicians because most of them have no musicality, but this era of rappers literally are drug users. They rap about being drugged up all the time.
Right.
Like they're
So
high, they on
even
this, they
that,
on that. That
even
and that's the era, that's their shit. Our era were a bunch of drug dealers. That's what they did. They told their story, good, bad, or indifferent. They were selling drugs. What do you want them to talk about? The fucking Congress? They weren't there. They were on their local corner selling drugs. And this is what I was saying earlier. Everybody wants to try to tell you what is the right way to tell your story. You get to tell your story, period. You get to tell your story. And people don't have to like it. Everybody's not good. Everybody is not going to be the polished, whitewashed version of Martin Luther King because the real version is definitely not that shit that they're selling you on the fucking 18th of January. But anyway, everybody is not going to be that. But people get the right to tell their whole story.
Tosh, are you trying to say that they were not forced to sell to put out these messages? Are you saying that these were just the messages they came up with on their own? You saying there was no pressure involved?
First of all, most of the rappers, especially from our era, they released their first fucking 2 albums on their own. Nobody backed them. They didn't have a label. They were selling them shits out their trunk. So who pressured them? Who? They told their story. That's it. They told their stories
So
on
you're
tape.
wait. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So you're saying these people were just telling their story. This is just what it was.
This is a fact. This is a fact. This is not my opinion. It's a statement of fact. I don't have any opinion on it. It's just what it was. I mean, you can literally read, you can read anyone who has a book or who's done an interview, you can read their interviews. The shit is consistent. It's funny because I made a joke on Twitter the other day. 22 Twos is one of my favorite Jay-Z songs. And on that song, so there's kind of like the way the song is set up, if you never heard it, is that he goes to this show and the woman is hosting it. She gives Jay-Z, the floor, he does his thing. And then at the end, she's saying, hey, I know that you're in trouble with the law. And I just want you to know that we got your back. And I know that you're innocent. And so what I tweeted was, every time I hear that, it makes me laugh because he was guilty as fuck. He says it on every album, on every song, and in every interview. I was selling drugs. I was doing the wrong shit. Like, he was guilty as fuck. But, people want to manufacture whatever narrative makes them feel better for either supporting the music or listening to the music or being a fan. Like, oh, I support you. I know you didn't do nothing wrong. Yes, he did. He said it. He said it. He said it every damn time. He said, I did it. And that shit makes me laugh. That's why I like the song so much. Because she's so dedicated to saying that this man is innocent, even after the man just rapped about being guilty. It's beautiful. I love it. It's the wildest shit ever. Thoroughly love it.
Okay. So before you say anything else, let me just say that a part of what I'm trying, this is why I want to talk to you, because you're able to just say, and we just have a complete, we live in the same world, we're looking at the same thing, but we just see it differently. And I like
that's the beauty. That's dope though. That's the beauty of the human experience.
Right. And so the simple point that I'm trying to say is, like you said, you're a lawyer, you've been through stuff, you've seen things. But a lot of the music was painted in one particular way. And there wasn't a lot of music made for the 9 to 5ers.
That's because 9 to 5ers just weren't making music, which is interesting. You say that. My homeboy Yao, shout out to Yao. Check him out. His music is dope. I think it was either his first album or his second album is entitled 9 to 5 because it is literally for the 9 to 5ers because that's who we were. Like, that's who our demographic were. Like,
Absolutely.
We went to work every day. So, we had 9 to 5 jobs. We weren't selling drugs. But I don't think that the music was painted one way. I just think the people that made the music, that's where they came from. And a lot of them, like, motherfuckers ain't really have a choice. And so they use that money to try to transition themselves out of that lifestyle.
Rick Ross had a 9 to 5.
And Rick Ross lied his ass off about it.
He had a 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
So he didn't make 9 to 5 music. He made drug dealer music.
Absolutely. Because that's what he wanted to be. He was fraudulent. His whole story was fraudulent.
So the point of what I'm saying here is
but Rick Ross is an outlier. He's an outlier. And he got outed immediately for lying.
Right. So a part of what I'm saying here, and I'm, I feel like we could go on forever with this, but a part of what I'm saying here is that there's certain themes that has now been taken on by other subcultures, other groups, or we've propelled it to a new level. So yes, every Russians sell drugs, Jews sell drugs, everyone sells drugs, but the way we do it in our music just takes it to that next level where you think.
Well, what level does it go to when the Italians drop their mafia movies, selling drugs and whatnot? What level is that? Because Scorsese, his movies are still selling out. They're still buying the Mario Pucci books. I want to know what level does glorifying the mob and mafia lifestyle take it to? Because that's still a real thing.
I mean, so we know the mafia is real, right? We know everyone sell drugs, so we're not saying that, right? So I think what I'm saying is that um, is some of these messages in the entertainment getting so powerful that it hurts our interactions. And so when I meet an Italian person, I don't automatically assume they've killed people, they're part of the mafia, or they have mafia ties, right?
But is that because of movies or is that because of your upbringing? Like, I feel like you're trying to place the responsibility of upbringing on entertainment.
I'm saying, I'm saying that the
You
media.
didn't answer my question though. I'm asking you. You said that when you meet an Italian person, you don't automatically assume the things that are portrayed in mafia movies, right? And I'm asking you, is that because of the entertainment or is that because of your upbringing that you don't assume these things about them?
I mean, I guess it's common sense. I mean, upbringing, common sense, right?
Okay, well then the same can be said. So if they can put out their glamorizing, sorry, if they can put out their glamorizing of whatever life is obviously, not the best way to live, and you can utilize your common sense and you can utilize whatever values have been instilled in you by, your tribe that raised you, then why would that not be the same across the board, right? Why would music also not be given the same pass? Like, you cannot substitute properly raising people
So
with
here's the thing.
with entertainment. Like, the entertainment is not supposed to be raising your children.
So here's the thing, right? We both live in the same world. We know when a black person does a crime, they show a close up of their face. When a white person does a crime, it's minimized.
Correct.
So it's not the music's fault. I'm not saying, oh, it's rappers' fault, but I'm
But
saying,
that's what it sounds like you're saying, and
the music
it
plays a
sounds like you
role.
said it many, many times.
I'm saying the music's playing a role in it. And for every mafia movie that exists, there's also the movie where the white girl gets married and they have a normal life and everything's fine. So, like we said earlier, we're underrepresented in Hollywood. We came from that underrepresentation in Hollywood, plus the over glorification in the music, and then the media's push of us in this particular way, and the fact that they don't know us in real life. It's propelling the image in a specific way. And I'm
Let
not
me ask you something. What's your responsibility? Because
knowledge that one.
it sounds to me like you feel like the responsibility is everywhere but in house, right? Which is absurd. It's an absurdity. It's an absurdity. Entertainment is going to be entertainment. All you did was prove my initial point, which is that Black people never get to be a whole person. Black people never get to be good, bad,
I want to
ugly,
see the
beautiful,
9 to
indifferent.
5ers.
I just told you where you can find the 9 to 5ers, but you never sought them out. And that's a large part of your problem. That's a large part of everybody's problem. People want to be spoon-fed. If you don't see what you're looking for, look harder. And if you don't find it, produce it. Make it happen. Be a part of the solution. But what I'm really curious about is what you feel your responsibility is. Because it's not Hollywood's responsibility to curate your children's experience, right? It's not music's responsibility to curate your children's experience, right? That's your responsibility, period. That's it. So if you don't like the way the music is going, I can respect that. I agree with that. Curate the music you play in your house like you did yesterday. Don't like this shit? Skip it. Make a playlist. Make music that you like. If there's, once your kids get a little older, you got some kids that are of age that you could have those conversations with them, play the music, sit down, have the conversations with them. That's the opportunity to actually have this dialogue that you just mentioned. Like, listen, this is how people view us. This is how the media presents us. When people don't know us, they lean into X, Y, and Z, which is really their shortcoming and having not been raised right, right? Because if they were, they would know not to lean into entertainment as a basis of facts for everybody in a demographic. But we can't do anything about their shortcomings. But for you, that's an opportunity to sit down and have those conversations, at least with the older boys, obviously not with the young ones yet, but it is an opportunity to say, listen, you're going to hear this shit with or without me.
Right.
I'd rather you hear it with me and we have this conversation and we have this dialogue and we have like some real man-to-man shit on how you need to conduct yourself when you engage with people, especially when you engage with other Black people in the streets. Because the shit ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like the shit we can do in the house ain't the shit we can necessarily do in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like it sounds good. I love that you moved your kids out of the city. I love that shit. I tell people all the time, get your kids the fuck out the city. If you can do it, do it. And don't feel bad about that shit. Pack them up, take them somewhere luxurious and nice, and put them in some fucking plaid prints and have a lovely fucking summer. Enjoy that shit. You know, but also remember to tell them that this shit is a microcosm. When you leave the backyard, they still see what they see. All they see is this. And I feel like this is an opportunity for you to sit down and have those kind of conversations with them. Absolutely. Yeah, the music is shit. Shit is not great, but it's still a teachable moment. It's still an opportunity. Let's do something positive with it.
Teachable moment. Absolutely. You know, I obviously I talk a lot with the kids about it, and that's a big part of it. I think my responsibility is to make sure that the people I'm around get a more humanist full picture of us as African Americans, and just a reminder that, you know, we have to push past those messages. But those messages are very heavy, and that's what I'm saying. They permeate so strongly. People are still talking about Snoop Dogg's trial from 1996, and
no one's talking about all the mafia trials.
That's what I'm saying. It's
so
heavy.
This is my point. It is the narrative that's put. That narrative is going to be pushed. Whether Black rappers could stop dropping music today, you can never hear another rap song ever again in life, and the narrative will still be pushed. It's akin to saying Black on Black crime, which is not a thing. Because do you hear white on white crime? Do you hear Asian on Asian crime? Italian on Italian crime? No, it's a narrative that's pushed on purpose.
And we're helping.
Are white people not killing white people?
That's not, I'm saying we're helping.
Are white people not killing? You're not listening. Are white people not killing white people?
Yes, white people killing white people.
Crime is geographic. Most crime are crimes of opportunity. Crimes are geographic. And as much as everyone likes to act like America's a melting pot, it's segregated as fuck still. Right down to New York City. The Black people live with the Black people. The Latinos live with the Latinos. The Asians live with the Asians. Do you think crime is not happening in Chinatown? Happens every fucking day. People get murdered at alarming rates in Chinatown. It is not reported on the same way.
Exactly.
And that is intentional. The point is for them to demonize us. So when you co-sign the narrative, rather than calling out the fact that we are actually just misrepresented in the media, you, not we, you help it. You help it. Because crime is always going to be geographic. Most crime is crime of opportunity. Almost all crime is crime of opportunity. You got this small pocket of premeditated crime. That's your bank robbers, and even some of those are like just opportunity. This bank was closer, but that's your bank robbers. That's like your first degree murder. Somebody that killed their fucking wife and baby and chopped her up and had a burial spot. Those are your premeditated crimes. Granny that got robbed, the car that got broken into, the store that got robbed, all that shit was in the neighborhood that they already lived in. People in your neighborhood tend to look like you. Because America's hella segregated. But we love to push this fucking, oh, it's the melting pot. The streets are paved with gold. When you come here, everyone's treated equally. It's the land of the free. It's the home of the brave. Built on the back of slaves. That they love to omit. You know what I love about Germany? When you go there, they put their fucked up history on display so that they don't repeat it. They own it. They talk about it. They teach it. And they put it on display. Like there's museums everywhere. There's all these statues everywhere, for the sole purpose of not repeating it and not fucking rehashing all the fucked up shit that happened. But America likes to sweep shit under the rug, pretend it didn't happen, act like systemic racism isn't real, act like the media doesn't disproportionately police arrest, villainize, criminalize, and put us in the media as the bad guy. These things really happen. So pretending that they don't happen or acting like because crime happens in our communities, we feed it is bullshit. Crime happens everywhere. It's crime happening outside your door right now.
Should we still be focusing on integration? Should we be focusing on building up our community? Like, is where should we put our energy at this point?
Listen, I've been team do what the Jews do for a long time. I have literally given this talk more than once. Do what the Jews do. We need to be building up all our own. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to be self-sufficient because nothing else is going to benefit us. Like the black dollar leaves the black community almost instantaneously. I think it's probably changed this much in the last decade. I think it used to leave the black community, what they said, in under a minute. And I think now might be in a couple of minutes. But like I would say it probably gets recycled once in the black community before it leaves it. Whereas I think the Jewish dollar gets recycled 6 times in their community before it leaves it. And that's the type of shit we need to be doing. I would say that I'd seen over the last 2 years more of a shift um, in Black people becoming interested in being more financially intelligent and in trying to learn more and trying to be more economically savvy. Um, I know that I've even seen like more interest in moving money to Black banks and to Black credit unions. And so it's nice to see the trend starting to happen, but it's all in its infancy. It's all in its infancy, right? So it's going to take a long time for that to really make a substantial, dent, make a real effect. But it's nice to see that the ball is starting to roll.
So do you think that I think we can agree that we're targeted more, so that we get more pushback when we try to develop ourselves as a community.
Absolutely.
So do you think they legitimately hate us because we're black? Do you think they hate us because it's a divide and conquer?
It's both. It's both. Remember, this is 400 years of taught hate. This is like they just start hating us yesterday. We're 400 years into the hate, right? So this is generational hate. This is what people have been taught. Like whoever grew up hating us as a child is now the police sheriff. Are you surprised we're over police? They've been taught to hate us. It's literally all they know. So yeah, it's genuine. I lived in Middle America, so I've experienced it firsthand. It's sincere. It's at their core, at their root. To the point where they vote against their own interests. Just them putting Cheeto in office was the most asinine shit ever, because if you're poor, you may as well be black. You're gonna be fucked too. You were gonna be fucked over too, and that's exactly what happened. And then when a lot of people started realizing that they were not going to get any benefit for being white, they realized they voted against their own interests. Like Americans are so rooted in racism, which is literally woven into the fabric of this country, that they will lean into that more than self-preservation, which is absurd because we are all animals. And your animal instinct says to protect yourself first. Like that's your first instinct because we're animals. And they chose their race over self. It's quite impressive. Honestly, if I had the time, I'd write a paper on the phenomenon that was the 2016 election, but I don't have the time. But I hope someone does do a real study on it, because it was phenomenal. And I wasn't surprised. I was not surprised.
So people were afraid that black people were getting too much power, and they would rather stay poor and make sure that black people don't get any more power than for us all to move ahead together.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't think they were going to stay poor. They attributed their poorness to us.
But that's
So if black people are moving up, they're taking from me. So if I can get a white person in here, then he's going to take from the black people and give to me. What they did not realize is that Trump is only fucking with rich people, period. Like it's the rich and then the more rich. The rest of you motherfuckers are going to be on your own. and they had no real concept of the fact that you need to protect yourself first. And if like you took 30 seconds to just listen to the man, you would know he's not going to do anything for you because you can't do anything for him. But they linked it to their race more than they linked it to protecting themselves. And that, honestly, it's a phenomenon. I hope someone does a case study on it. I'd love to read it.
One of the things that I'm passionate about, my next goal that I'm working towards is creating a community space where like-minded individuals are breaking bread together, having a community building where we can actually have a space where we know this is who we are. And I'm trying to put the foundational steps towards that. Do you have any thoughts?
Um, I mean, it's always good to have like a space where like-minded people can come together. That's why sororities and fraternities thrive. That's why social orders thrive. I'm always pro those things. I'm pro Black organizations. I'm pro like gender-based organizations, and I'm pro thought-based organizations. I think it's helpful, it's healthy, because as much like-minded as people are, there's always those nuances that give you like just a different way to look at things that you probably never thought of. Also, I think it's good to have a space where you can have like substantive conversation. A lot of shit is so fucking dumb these days, and I would apologize for being a bit of an intellect snob, but I won't. Um, because everyone's got a smartphone, like let your smartphone be smart. It's the willful ignorance of this era that annoys me, because so much information is right in your hand. The fact that you won't do like real like you won't take the opportunity to really learn some shit really annoys me. And that's, I used to teach, so we could blame the educator in me for that. But I think it's a great idea to create a space where you can have like-minded people come together, like talk about some real substantive things, and hopefully make some substantive change. I know we just did that over pandemic. My one of my homeboys, he just got like a group of friends together, and every week just we started having like a virtual brunch. And out of that virtual brunch, couple of people on that brunch took some of the initiatives that we were talking about and created the Black Dollar Index. It just launched. Actually, I think it launched yesterday or today. Um, we should check it out. And it just it's really dope to see the culmination of just like a bunch of people who give a fuck about something of substance, which in this case is Black people, and the way companies are benefiting off of us but not giving back to us, and then doing something substantive with that, like taking the thought and then moving the thought into action. And I think those things don't happen without kind of spaces like you're talking about, without creating spaces where like-minded people really get together, really have substantive conversations, and really like, what I'm saying, come together and kind of do some real work to move the dial. So I think it's a great idea.
So one of my next steps that I'm thinking about is, doing some paperwork like an LLC, nonprofit, um, and actually, getting a couple of deeds and getting some things going. So little by little, it's baby steps. I'm in Central Jersey, so I think it's important to have face-to-face community. I know we're in a pandemic now, so it's more like when this is over kind of thing.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think it's a great idea, especially if the I mean, from what it sounds like, the concept is going to be around like, sounds like real estate. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever it is that the concept is going to be, um, if it requires an entity, then do it. If you don't need to do an LLC or a non-for-profit, you kind of can wait off on that, more so focus on building a community if that's the point of it. But if the point of it is to like create an investment group or something like that, then go ahead. I think starting out with
I
the
think
entity.
I think you need a physical space, and I think it's, I mean, 15 people in your house is
Oh
probably.
yeah, no, no. I mean, but you don't need to buy a space. You can rent out a space. Shit, you can probably find some place for free at this juncture, to be honest.
It's not that easy, people aren't just like, hey, you can, it's an uphill
Have
battle.
you asked? Have you asked? One of the things that we talked, one of the things that I was talking to this guy. Damn, I can't think of his name. He's got a dope podcast, Behind the Wheel. Really, really dope guy. I like him a lot. And he posted some shit. I want to say from Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, one of them old white people. Anyway, they were just talking about the fact that a lot of shit, a lot of information and experience and access to stuff that they got was because they asked. Now, while I don't agree with everything they said, because obviously there's a nuance to white people having access that black people don't have, um, there is something to be said though for asking. You don't know until you ask. And a lot of community-based organizations that have a physical space already really do let people use their space for free. They're keen to it because it brings people in to see what else they have to offer. Like that's the way they try to rope you in to try to make you become an active, participant in all the other things they have going. So I mean, I don't know how your community is set up, obviously, because I have not been there, but if there are other community organizations that have a physical space already, you should find out. You should ask.
Yeah,
Ask. Don't spend the money until you need to,
right.
right? Don't Now's not the time to just spend your money. Build the community first that you're trying to build. Like build that organization. Then once that organization is a viable, you got a solid this amount of people that always participate that are, really about being about whatever this group is going to be about. Then you looking to invest in money, but you don't want to throw money at shit you don't need to ahead of time.
So I've always been like a big community person, where I think that, I'm more open-minded, and I think I think so there's the I think black only spaces, and I do think we need all inclusive spaces. Like,
Absolutely.
navigate
I,
how do we
I,
navigate those two separately together, as a.
easy. Easy. All that shit needs to exist. Black people need a space with just black people. Don't nobody else know what the hell we going through but us. Period. And I'm not trying to explain everything that come out of my mouth. I'm not trying to explain, my jargon. I'm definitely not trying to hear somebody who's not black tell me why you trying to pull a race card or are you sure it was race? I'm not trying to hear none of that shit, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there are days where that's the last thing I want to hear. Like I just want to be able to talk to somebody that understands me, understands, what I'm saying, and that's that. Conversely, there needs to be spaces where I can talk to everybody, like because my life isn't a monolith. There are things about my experience that some black people it doesn't resonate with them. It might resonate with some of my Indian friends or some of my white friends. It might resonate more to them because they also had a similar experience, whether it's like some school shit or like some work shit, whatever the case may be. I think those two spaces need to exist. And I don't really think I don't think there needs to be like a blueprint on how to navigate them. They just both need to coexist. It just is what it is. Are you trying to facilitate both spaces? Because that you can't do. You're either going to facilitate an all black space or you're going to facilitate everybody's space.
No, but I think there needs to be both, right? Like,
It does need to be both. I'm asking you, what are you trying to facilitate though?
I
What's your goal?
I want to facilitate both,
You're
and,
going to be very tired. That's going to be exhausting. You're going to be, it's
it's
going to
no,
be.
I so here's my thing. Here's my thing. I really struggle with the fact that I think you said at one point it's moved an inch, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like things are getting better, but it's moving really slowly. And for us to be still talking about the same issues that we were from the 1960s, it's really serious. And I think, we have a baby step mentality. Everyone do a little bit, and I think we need more.
I don't agree with that.
What? We,
I don't think we have a baby step mentality at all.
What
I don't think
is the
so.
mentality towards changes? I mean,
I don't think we do at all.
from the 60s where we were
Do
to
you think that do you think that we are in the same place? Do you think that we're in the same place because for lack of trying to move the needle aggressively, or do you think that we're in the same place because of consistent barriers of the goal line being moved, of laws being in place, of politicians being in place, legacy politicians being in place? Like I'm curious as to why. What is your opinion on why we are still in the basically in the same place that we were then?
I think if the outsiders are going to treat us the same, then we're obviously not in control of that. I think what we are in control of is how the in group functions. So I think we can we need to focus more on that. So
That didn't answer my question.
I mean, the answer to your question is, I think the reason why they treat us the same is because they want things to stay the way they are.
Oh no, I didn't ask you shit about them. I know why they behave the way they behave. I said, do you think things are the same? Because do you think that we haven't tried to move the needle
I don't
aggressively,
I don't
or
think
do
I don't think our main energy should be on trying, because now you're asking them to treat you differently. You're asking
no,
them
that's not what I'm asking you. I said, do you think that we have not tried to move our needle aggressively? Because you said you think that our approach has been small steps, and I said that I don't agree with that. If our approach had been small steps, I promise you a lot less of our Black leaders would be dead. They wouldn't have been shooting at MLK if he was trying to make a small change. They wouldn't have shot Fred Hampton in his bed if he was trying to make a small change. Like, I don't know what small. That's what I'm trying to understand. What do you mean by small steps? Because I don't see that the way you see it.
I mean, those people who you named are more aggressive, right? So those people are the exception.
There's
So
plenty, but this is the thing though. Those people don't exist independently. There were literally in every state pockets and pockets of community organizers that was moving this agenda along with them. Like they're the face of a movement. They're not the movement. The
so
movement is happening the movement was happening just like it is now, was happening in every community with unsung heroes and names we don't know. Like Stacey Adams is the name we know, right? She's the face of flipping Georgia blue. She didn't flip Georgia blue alone though. It's the local person who's getting her neighbors active. It's the local person who's talking to her neighbors about the importance of local politics, registering people to vote, driving people to polls. Those are the people that are moving the needle. So I don't know. I don't understand, and I damn sure don't agree with the concept that we have only been trying, like we've chosen like a small steps approach to moving the needle. I don't agree with that at all.
so the approach has been what exactly?
The approach has always been aggressive. It's
So
always been aggressive.
give me
It's
an
never been.
give me an example of something aggressive that we were doing.
We literally just flipped Georgia blue. I just gave you a whole example of something aggressive. Georgia's never been blue in the history of the United States.
So I fundamentally agree with you.
In the history of
What
this
is
stank ass
what
country.
is when we look back 50 years from now, what is Georgia Blue doing? Like, what are we doing there?
Well, that what it should do, because remember, they just went their blue. So this 4 years is going to dictate that. What it should do, though, is give the Democrats more leverage so that we get more progressive agendas passed. We'll see.
But give an example of something that can happen. Like, give an example.
An example of something that can happen, something that's already happened is the fact that they whatchamacallit. So we have no student loan payments until September. And honestly, that might get pushed out until December too. But that's a progressive agenda. That's not your traditional Dems. That's a progressive, that's like your AOCs, your Bernies. And I'm not even a huge Bernie fan, but that is a progressive agenda. And you know what? And they just made Bernie the head of the fucking Senate of the House budget the Senate budget or House budget, I think House Budget Committee. And so something progressive that could come out of that would be, I know they just brought Obamacare back. I know that's not what it's called, but what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
call
yeah.
it.
I'm with you.
That's what everybody knows it as.
So
Bringing
I
Obama.
want to make sure that we're clear on this. I agree with you.
No, I'm not. I don't understand what you mean by small. Is what I'm saying.
So
You
what
said
I'm
that you,
saying,
and I'm just trying to understand what you mean by small, because
here's
I
what I,
don't think that these are small initiatives.
so the initial,
Because Black people couldn't vote for bad laws.
yeah. So
like,
I don't want to
like
see I don't want to seem counterproductive, or I'm not acknowledging stuff, but we're, we're still marching in the streets. We still have issues with
for sure.
we still have the media misrepresenting us. We still have these messages that are so normalized. Um, so when these things that you mentioned happen, they're good, but those engines are still on full blast.
I
So
know, but I want you to explain to me what you mean by we take small approach, like we take a small approach
so
to change.
so
Because
even
I don't understand that.
we're still dissecting that thought, right?
You dissected that thought. I'm not dissecting that shit at all. That's your thought.
As,
That ain't my thought at all. So you gonna dissect that shit on your own.
so the engines are still on full blast. From the 60s to now, the engines are still on full blast. So when Martin
Mhm.
Luther King, Fred Hampton, all these people are doing what they're doing, they're not knocking out the engines. So they make whatever strides they make, but the engines are still pulling us back. As we're making strides, they're pulling. So in the end, even though we're making big strides, we're not knocking out the engines. And I think that's a better way for me to say it. It's not that we're not trying to make big strides, but as we make strides, large, medium, and small, the engines keep going. The newspapers keep putting the messages out. We
See,
keep
now that's a more actual statement. Like that statement is more factual. That other shit you were saying was some bullshit. what,
but here's but here's what
was
I'm
it?
saying.
Was
Here's what I'm
some
saying
bullshit.
too. I, I'm looking at the problem as a whole, and I'm saying we still have the problem, right?
Of course.
So if we're saying it's a 400-year problem, you're not going to fix it in 60 years. So I
You're not.
understand that. I understand that. So that's why we're having this conversation. And what I'm really leaning towards is, well, okay, what's our course of action? Like, I do think I mentioned the newspapers. Like, we really have to get a hold on these newspapers, and not so much stop them from saying it, but be clear which newspapers we support and which newspapers we don't. And
Let me ask you something. Do you have a Black newspaper where you live at?
um, not that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe the Muslims have something that they're handing out, but not something.
But not like a regular paper that comes out that that you can rely on.
Right.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, but again, that's to my point earlier. Like when we don't see the things that we know we need, it's on us to make sure that shit happens. Like so the guy I told you about that has the album 9 to 5,
mhm.
um, his sister, she actually has an all Black news network that is going to be going live, I think at the end of the year, which is very, very fucking exciting. I love Black women. We're the shit. We get shit done. But but it's rooted out of this very kind of conversation. Like we need our own media telling our own stories. And once upon a time, we had some semblance of that when BET was Black and a full station where we had the news and we had this, that, and the third. But once Viacom bought it, it was basically MTV and what I'm saying, a different jacket. But I agree. I absolutely agree. We do need our own media. We need our own media formats. We do have like Revolt TV, which has Black news. But if you live in New York, you got like the Amsterdam News, and there's another Black print media in New York. But again, it's more in curating how we spend our dollar. Like it always comes back to how we spend our dollar. Because if we are the generation of Black people that are gonna be the ones providing all these media outlets and trying to change the narrative and try to give ourselves an opportunity to be fairly displayed in the media, we need the rest of us to buy into that. Like if you still spend all your money over there, then we don't get the cash flow to keep it going, right? Because if it's only cash going out, you know what I'm saying? Then this shit has an expiration date. The cash has to keep being on a on a steady flow um, to kind of make that happen. Which is why I mentioned earlier that I'm proud to see that people are really starting to get really fiscally and economically savvy and really intentional about where they spend their money. I mean, y'all know I'm a Malcolm and a real Martin, not January 18th Martin. So I I've always been about this. This is who I always been. Um, if my money can go someplace Black, my pharmacy is hella far from me. That shit is like on the other side of town. It's Black owned. Give a fuck. I Cicely Tyson's book just came out. There's only one Black owned bookstore for like two and a half counties. He said he won't have the book till Thursday. I said, cool, I'll come in on Saturday. I could have went to Barnes and Noble and bought the shit. Barnes and Noble's like 10 minutes from my house. Nah, I know that I'm buying more than one copy. I'd rather take my money to the Black owned bookstore, but we have to be that intentional with everything.
Did her book just come out?
Yeah, it came out 2 days before she died. God rest her soul.
That's crazy.
I know. I know. That shit was like prophetic as fuck. In her last interview, she said that she knows Gayle King asked her, like, what does it feel like to be an icon? And she was like, it feels crazy, but all I know is that God's not done with me because I woke up today. Whenever he's done with me, I'm not going to wake up. Her book dropped, and then 2 days later, God called her home. And I was like, that's some prophetic shit, man. That's deep.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. There's definitely a need to change
I feel, I try to understand both sides of the coin. There's a lot of well-intentioned white people out there who support media that doesn't help us.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? So they're like, well, what am I supposed to do to get my news? You know, in the meantime, what should they be doing?
They can get their news from Black news, like just like we can. The same way we can turn on remote, they can turn on remote. The same way, like if I can turn on Good Morning America, you can turn on remote news. Like our TVs work the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't got access to a channel that you don't have access to unless you intentionally just don't turn to that channel. And
right.
This is what I'm saying. Like these things, like it has to be wholly intentional. You have to want to do it. If you don't want to, you don't want to do it. You're not going to do it. You don't watch shit you don't want to watch.
So, what's happening to Black people systematically? Is it happening to anyone else?
Absolutely.
Who else
Absolutely.
is it happening to?
It's happening to people of color across this country. It's happening to Asians. It's happening to Latinos. It's happening to the LGBTQ community. It's definitely happening to others. I think the difference, or I know the difference, is just that, at least when it comes to race-based systemic racism, we didn't come here of our own volition. Like this is like they brought us here for the purpose of degrading us, breaking apart our families, and breaking us down as individuals. Like they sought us out to do that, which is completely different than people who have immigrated here in search of a better situation and then found out oh,
You broke a little. It might be on my system, but you have a little bit of a lag. Give it a second.
yeah, you're
Was that on my side?
yeah. I think we back though.
Yeah. I think people are struggling to connect the dots. So they see what's happening to us, to Asians, to Latinos, to LGBT. They see them as separate and they're not able to connect the dots.
Do you truly believe that though? Because I don't. I don't. I
I
think
mean,
because
maybe they know deep down, but maybe they know subconsciously, but they're not walking around saying, there's a system of oppression at all of you guys. Like they're not walking
yeah,
around with that. I think there's a more of the, we're trying and a few people are holding the system back kind of.
yeah. I mean, you know my position on it. That's bullshit. Like I think it's a convenient it's a convenient narrative to lean into if you're the majority because it gives it's the limousine liberal narrative, right? Like I got black friends and I don't impress anybody, you know. I voted for Barack,
So
but but in reality, like not speaking out against the totality of what the fuck is going on in America is basically you either with us or you're against us. There's no in between. So if you're not an ally for actual change in this country that's going to benefit everybody, then you're okay with even one of us being discriminated against. That shit can't be okay. Like you can't be okay with somebody being discriminated against and then saying, "Oh no, not me. I wouldn't do that." But you're okay if somebody else does it? No, it's not okay if anybody does it. It's got like that's an all-in thing. Like there's no gray with that. Not for me. That's an all-in thing.
I'm trying to think of his name. Was it last name was Blake, the guy that got shot in his back and he's crippled?
Um, can't think of his first name offhand.
Was it Blake though, right?
Man, so many black people get shot all the time.
I think that I mean they're all terrible and they're all but like I don't know.
Blake shot in back.
Like on social I don't know. I don't know.
Hold
Uh
on, Jacob. His first name was Jacob.
Jacob Blake.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his first name. Yeah, Jacob.
I think with that one it just on our like I don't know. Um I'm just trying to connect the dots. I deep down I think majority of I think most people majority of white people or people in general they're not willing to give up their privilege, but if they could press a button to end oppression for others they would.
We can agree to disagree.
I'm saying the
Because
average.
those things they're not mutually exclusive. Those things exist congruently. Like their privilege is rooted in that.
Right,
So
right, but
if the understanding is that these people would not want to give up their privilege, then the understanding is also that if they had the opportunity to push a button and get rid of it, that they would not, because that would essentially be giving up their privilege. So we can agree to disagree on that because I disagree completely.
are you saying
I love that you got so
are
much
you
faith in
saying are
people
you
though.
saying they wouldn't press the button?
I'm saying that absolutely they would not not press the button.
All right,
No, they would not.
so let's be clear what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of white people
Mm-hmm,
that have 401ks, retirements, comfortable middle class.
mm-hmm.
Um, if they had to lose absolutely nothing, they just had to press a button like at the voting booth to end oppression, they would check the box, end oppression. And I'm not saying all of every white person would, but I'm saying majority, I think majority of them would. At least 25%.
I love your faith in people, yo.
So my question,
I love your faith in
so
people. I don't have your level of faith in
on the
people at all.
2024 election, there's a button that says, do you want to end oppression? There's nothing else attached to it, just a simple question. Do you want to end oppression? How
I
many
love your optimism.
how
That's all I
many
can tell
votes
you,
do you think
man.
that would get?
Your optimism warms my heart. We need we need people like you in the world to offset the me's in the world because I'm cynical as fuck, but that's because I know the truth. I know the
I
truth.
know a lot of people who voted for Obama who, you know,
Please, I just gave you the I voted for Obama limousine liberal speech. Do not regurgitate it. That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything.
no, but
I
I
don't care that you voted for Obama if you put a local person, if you voted for a legacy local fucking politician, because that affects my day to day more than who's sitting in 1600. If you put the asshole sheriff that's been over policing our fucking,
but
the
there's
black
no
people in our
black
community in
sheriff
town,
on the ballot. There's
listen,
no
it doesn't have to be a black sheriff. They're good white people. You just said that out your own mouth. Listen to me.
right.
This is my point.
They're
If
not.
you voted
They're
for
not on
Barack,
the ballot.
if you they're not on the ballot. If you voted for Barack and you put a legacy local politician or sheriff or district attorney or state attorney or judge back on the bench, back in their patrol car or back in that seat, even though they've done nothing but perpetuate systemic racism, but you voted for Barack, you are still part of the problem.
But there's no alternative for them on that
There are
ballot.
plenty of alternatives. There's always other people on the ballot. Who's telling you that there's nobody else on the ballot? Who? Where are
I
you
mean,
getting this from?
I'm
Where are you
saying,
getting this from? Because that's not a fact.
so you're saying every time there's an opportunity to there's always someone better is what you're saying.
There is always somebody better every fucking time. Every
They're
time.
not picking them because they don't want change.
Exactly. If you look at local politics anywhere, but especially in major cities, because major cities is where it's prevalent, right? Because that's where local politics is really a big deal because the numbers are so large, as opposed to like a small town. You know, everybody knows everybody, so it's like, oh, Ricky's my cousin, I'm gonna vote for Ricky. But like a big city, you know what I'm saying, like a Jersey City or New York or Boston, big cities, local politics are fucking inherently legacy. The same people sit in those seats for decades. And then the next person to sit in their seat is either their nephew, their niece, their cousin,
There's
somebody, their mentee, their protege, somebody they groom. Meanwhile, there have been primaries of a bunch of other candidates that tried to get on the ticket, but nobody was trying to hear what they were talking about because they are already rooted in legacy. Have you seen the movie The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy?
it's been a while.
You should watch. It's a good movie. First of all, it's hilarious. But the concept of that movie is how strong legacy is, because the guy, the name he ran under, was his actual name, but it wasn't him. It was someone who had held office before, so everyone knew the name. He
Right,
never put his face on any of the pamphlets. He
right,
never showed up to any of. He never showed up to any of like the debates. He
right,
never showed up to any functions. He never actually campaigned for a vote.
right.
He didn't have to. He had a legacy name and people stuck to what they knew. And that's the problem. People have to start branching out, listen to different voices. You can't say you want something different,
When that
but
same
do the same shit.
example, in that same example, people stuck to what they knew. Um, people are sticking to what they show up. They're uninformed. You're saying
Exactly.
primarily by their choice, and they just stick to what they know. Um, but deep down, they would press the button.
I don't think so.
Some of them would.
Oh, man, I'll give you 5%. That's the best I can do.
5% of America. Now, don't get me wrong.
5% will
Don't
press
get
the
me wrong.
button. That's
All right,
the best I can do.
let's say it like this. You have those people who are ignorant, who are brought up racist, like a Trump supporter who might be ignorant to whatever, and they're like, no, I hate black people, or black people are not smart, or they're
Mhm.
taking over America. So they would be cautious to they would see end oppression and think it has some kind of covert meaning. So they
Mhm.
wouldn't do it, right? And then you'd have people who are intelligent and would say, this is going to affect my advantages, and be cautious about it for their own selfish reasons, okay?
Mhm.
And then you have those people who are actually good people who want to see America get better, who actually they those were the people who were helped 5%. So would you say it was 5% that were helping slaves get to freedom, or has that
Yeah,
shifted?
probably was less than that, honestly.
So the abolition movement consisted of the 5%.
Yeah, it might have been less than five then. Population has tripled since then, so now we up to five. But yeah, I mean, essentially to scale, yes, to scale, probably yes. The 5% is who was helping.
I mean, when when the Floyd when George Floyd happens, um, a lot of people think that's not right, and they don't think that should be happening. And would you say it's only 5% or it's more than 5%?
I would say with George Floyd, if that had happened without the video camera, we would have got the 5%.
Ah, listen, I totally agree with you, and I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't have a gun permit right now, and sometimes when the gun conversation comes up,
Mhm.
I feel like, I do feel like I'm unsafe in America. And
That's a valid feeling. That's a very valid feeling.
and in the old days, they would come with the Ku Klux Klan would come and drag you out of your home if you were uh, too good of a pastor. If
Hmm.
if your business was doing too well, you would
Absolutely.
come and get dragged out of your home. And I can say, in where I'm at right now, I don't feel that that could happen tonight, but I'm also not doing anything to necessarily be on their radar.
Right.
But I can say, if I lived somewhere, I would be, I would, in today's time, 2021, I'm just not sure. You never know, you know, your son is dating someone's daughter, how
Hmm.
it can like go left,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, easily go left. Your son could be on the Ivy League track, and him and so and so is studying, and
Absolutely.
who knows? You know what I'm saying? So I do still feel that element, me personally.
Hmm.
Um, 5% is a low number, but
I've lived in middle until you have lived in middle
no, 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 no,
America.
no. I'm not
I'm
disagreeing with
telling you.
you. I'm saying that there's still this element out there, and a part of
Yeah.
what I want this whole podcast to kind of do is a get the 5% to say I am a part of that 5%, and I do really care. This is
Yeah.
unacceptable. I want
Yeah.
to. If it's only 5%, I want to know who those 5% are, so we can that's what I was talking about with that space, that community
Hmm.
space, for that, so that I can know who the 5% is, so I can call on them. So when I,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know who they are right now.
It's
So
hard. It's hard. It's hard to tell. It's hard. It's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell. I'll tell. Like a perfect example is during the pandemic and BLM flaring up and shit coming to a head during last summer. I can count on one hand how many of my white friends reached out to me just to be like, yo, this shit has got to be stressful. I'm sorry you're going through this. Like, if you ever need an ear, I'm here. Like, I can count on one hand how many of my white friends reach out to me just on some, yo, this shit is fucked up. This has got to be stressful. How the fuck you hold it up? And that's just some human shit. That's just human shit. That's why I always say, like, I'm not, like, we don't need to teach you how to be an ally. The word ally means friend. You either know how to do it or you don't. No one has to teach you how to be an ally. No one has to teach you how to show up for Black people. How you show up for your friend? Okay, that's it. That's it. It's the same thing. There's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no secret recipe. There's no secret sauce to it.
you
And
don't
the
even
fact
read
that
the
I
book.
have the fact that I have many more than five white friends. And I just said this on my podcast recently. Yeah, I've got some white friends that would make it very easy for me to put on rose-colored glasses and be like, oh, not all white people. But nah, the ratio ain't enough. the ratio is not enough for me to be like, it ain't all white people. Nah. Yeah, we got our outliers, this person here, that person there, you got this one person you can rely on that speaks up, when no one's around. Cool. But the large majority of white people are very comfortable with the status quo, and they don't want to disrupt their day, or their comings and goings, to call some shit out. Like, that just is what the fuck it is, which is why I'm like, it's a 5% for me. I'm hard on the 5%. I have plenty. Shit, I got white relatives, and they know how I give it up. I don't give a fuck, yo. Yeah, listen. They'll catch the smoke too. Ain't nobody above it. It's real shit.
I know it's
Just cause some,
I I feel like we my goal is to live in a community amongst that 5%.
I think that's ambitious, and I respect it.
But that's my goal. So at least I could say the people who hang out with, I'm certain they're in that 5%, and I want to stay in that bubble. So regardless of what the outside world is doing and who I got to question outside, I want to surround myself with people in that space. And those 5%, I think those people in that 5% are comfortable being in a majority black group, and kind of overlapping, and because
You
they're,
let me know how this works out. I'm interested to see how this works out. I'm very curious to see how this works out. Please keep me posted.
yeah, I mean, this is what it is. This is what it is.
I'm very, very curious to see how this microcosm is going to, you know, exist.
I mean, listen, I have big ambitions, but I really want to start small, and and again, I just want something that I can feel good about, And
Yeah.
it's very uncomfortable. Being in America is very uncomfortable, especially when you see the outside stuff, and I feel it, whether it's at the grocery store, at work, with my neighbor, in the local schools, and
Hmm.
it's very much like, if it's 95% and you feeling that vibe from 95% of the people you interact with,
Yeah.
that's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I think most of that 95% would say, come on, we're not like that, or it's not, and so yeah, that's really the work. But
Listen, I'm interested. Let me know how that goes. I got a different approach to life, but I
I mean,
I'm
again,
interested to see how that goes.
we're gonna be fighting forever, or in this uncomfortable space of.
Let me tell you something. I came to grips with that a very long time ago. A very long time ago. I will be fighting for the entirety of my lifetime. I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that. My goal is that hopefully, if God so sees fit to bless you with children, that my great grandchildren aren't also fighting.
Well, my fear,
That my grandchildren, excuse me, aren't fighting. Because
my
we're
my
gonna be fighting for a while.
my fear is that those engines are not being dismantled. So the engines are growing and they're getting stronger. So meanwhile, we're making progress. Their pushback is.
Well, you have to pick your lane, because first you said we need to, on one hand you said we need to focus inside, and then on the other hand you say we need to dismantle the engines. And I think we need to focus to the extent that we don't need an outside. We
Mhm.
need to focus in-house,
Right.
because the more we focus in-house, the more we can get in-house, the less we need from outside. I don't even think Jewish people call the fucking NYPD in Brooklyn. I think they got their own fucking cops and everything. Like, they are fully sustainable, like
I tell you
completely
one thing.
sustainable. And not for nothing, it's a good way to exist when you live in a society that is literally constructed for your failure. I hate when people say the system doesn't work. It does. It works exactly the way it was designed. It was designed to hold us down. It was not designed to promulgate us or to push us forward. It's not what it was designed for. So it works the way it works flawlessly. I have a degree in the system. It works perfect. I promise. I promise. So yeah, I mean, us, we need to be focused on building as much as we can internally. We're always going to have to fight the external battle because it's there. But besides things like, police brutality and voter disenfranchisement, like I don't have any interest in fighting the mass white media. I don't give a fuck about the mass white media. I give a fuck about police. I give a fuck about the police because that's killing us, right? I don't want any of our I don't want any of our young people dead on the streets. I don't want any of us dead on the streets. Like that's an immediate impact in the way the police are policing black and brown bodies. That I care about. Voter disenfranchisement, that has an immediate impact on our day-to-day life. That directly affects who gets in the office, what DAs get elected, and what DA gets elected, what DA gets elected affects who gets prosecuted, what cases get prosecuted, what cases get tried. Judges that get put on the bench affect what kind of sentences get handed down. Like those are the things that affect us directly and instantaneously. So those are the things that are outside of our control that I have a vested interest in. Beyond that, we need to build internally. We need to build our businesses. We need to better educate ourselves. We need to take control of educating ourselves. And I think that that's one thing that's always been a benefit to me is that my education was not just school alone. I've always also had books outside of school. Like my family has always provided me reading materials outside of school. Like the first time I read The Miseducation of the Negro, I was in the 7th grade. So I was already a problematic black by the time I got to high school. I was already with the shits. But I think that that's our responsibility because so much of what is taught in school is written by the same media that you're talking about that's on TV. It's the same media.
Yep, yep.
So we know that it's a curated version of the story in the textbooks, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we educate our young people on the truth of their lineage, the truth of black people in America, the truth of the diaspora as a whole. Like we come from amazing, amazing people. Like there's a reason black people are prideful. We come from big stock, we should be prideful. It's just not taught, but that's on us. That's on us to make sure that we take control of our narrative and control of our education and shit like that. And that's where like a lot of our energy has got to get put. We got to put the time and the energy and the work in there.
Do, how do you feel when you meet other people of color? Do you feel like I see you? Like what's your
I love it. I love black people. I love straight people. I love the Asians. I love the Indians. Like I love people of color. Period. Just because we all have these very obviously we have these nuanced differences to our backgrounds. But if you're somebody of color who at least grew up in America, we got a little bit of like an adjacent story, and then we got these different nuances depending on our background, and that shit just gives life a little bit more flavor, and I enjoy that. I listen, and I love being black. I love black people. We shit. I love it.
definitely given a lot of food for thought? Um, yeah, basically, you know, I feel like I'm gonna come back to the same thing where, like, being a dad, full time parent,
Mm-hmm.
juggling work, life, and all of these things, like, I have so much on my plate, it's hard to really focus on this mission. But I
Yeah.
really felt the the burning desire to build community since I was in like high school.
But that's why I said you got to focus on getting your core group of people together first before anything else, because you're not going to be able to do this alone. You just can't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I get the plan. I see the vision, but I know your real life. You know what I'm saying? Like I know you. I know your real life. Time constraints are a real thing. No one can defy that there are only 24 hours in the day, and you have a lot of responsibilities. So you're going to need a solid core group of people that you can lean on in developing this vision. Like if you really want to make this thing, really become a thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. So I feel it more and more, and as time goes on, it like the passion to work on it is growing, and I feel like a lot of the people around me are more. Everyone's focusing on. Everyone's too busy, and I
Hmm.
don't hold it against them, but basically that's the vibe. Everyone's too busy for everything,
Hmm.
and you're lucky you get to see or connect when you do, and if you do or whatever.
Hmm.
So you can't even get this far into a conversation to even say what are we gonna do, because by now they already gotta put the kids to bed, they got work tomorrow, they gotta
Hmm.
check on this, and it's just like until next time, that kind of. And I've kind of felt that vibe continuously for a long time, and yeah, I think one of the next steps for me and you is I also want to have spaces where virtually now where we're having this conversation. I think prior to COVID, I was like, all right, I want to have in-person conversations, do these things, and
Hmm.
have dinners and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
you know, COVID put that on hold in a weird way. And then at some point, I started realizing that Zoom can be really helpful because, that 20 minutes it takes for you to get to my house or
Exactly. Yeah.
30 minutes you take to get to my house, this can kind of help mitigate all of that.
Yeah.
And I realized that in that way, it could be a blessing to kind of get the ball rolling. So the little bit of support that I do have, my goal is to kind of bring it in, bring it in into Zoom and set up infrastructure for post-COVID actions.
I
That
mean, that sounds like a plan. I think get yourself a structure. Like, I think if you structure it like, okay, I'm gonna do this once a month or every other week, not something that's
yeah,
weekly
yeah,
because time constraints
no,
are real. But you decide that you're gonna do this like every last Thursday of the month, and it's going to run from 7 to 8:30. You set the time, you set the date, and with the consistency, I think when people are able to pencil things in and kind of catalog that time in their head and they know that, okay, for this amount of time, I'm locked into this, and this is always going to be at this time. I think it makes it easier for people to schedule, gives people more of an opportunity to kind of work it in, what I'm saying, into their life. And I think that's going to kind of help get a more, that's going to help you sort out who's your consistent, who's your core group of people that you could really start to like expand your plan with.
yeah, and again, it's so big and like people are just very much like I do agree with the 5% number. I
Tell
do.
you it's real.
I'm not. I don't disagree with it. I think
It's real.
hypothetically, 40 to 60% would say they would, and then like push
And then
comes,
behind closed doors.
or maybe more actually press it. But then when it's time to actually whatever, it dwindles down. So I do agree with that because I
Yeah.
do get that feeling as well. But um, so I do that. I feel it. So I'm not even arguing from that perspective. So I'm just. It's hard to gather that 5%, because there's a lot of flip flopping, and we're all busy.
Yeah.
With that said, I really appreciate your time and your energy because you have that really good energy, and I feel like we're like minds. If I had 10 Tashas, that's all I would. Seriously. Seriously, I'm very serious.
You had 10 Tasha's, you would have a headache. I'd drive you crazy, Alexi.
But we would get stuff done. We would be
We
like
would get a lot of stuff done, though. That is correct.
vital.
We
You
would
know
get a
what
lot
I'm
of
saying?
stuff done. Oh, you know what? And now that I think about it, I think I called Mario Puzo Mario Pucci. The Italians will kill me. Mario Puzo. I
But
don't want anyone to kill me.
seriously, like it hasn't been easy, and
It's not. I think the thing is this: you just gotta focus on like what your plan is. Like your purpose. Focus on your plan. You know the saying: "If you make it, they will come." It's a real thing. If you make it, they will come. You just set the time, set the date, have the conversations. People are gonna rotate in and out, But you're gonna see like around the third or fourth week who's really coming and contributing like in a substantive kind of way. Who and then they'll bring somebody like, oh, this I had this conversation, I was on this was really good. That's literally how brunch our brunch started with like maybe one screen on Zoom. By the height of pandemic, we were scrolling like 8 pages. I was like, man, we gotta go back to invite only. This shit's out of control. Like we on like it got to the point where it wasn't brunch anymore. It was all day. We would be on all day long, like until like 3 in the fucking morning. And the shit started at brunch. You know what I'm saying? Because there was so many people and so many people wanted to contribute. People wanted to talk, and we were talking about real issues, and then we would socialize, try to lighten the mood and shit. But yeah, just keep being consistent, and the people will show up. The people that are aligned to what you're trying to do, they're going to show up. They will. They always do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being a sounding board and everything that you are all about. And there's a million things we could keep talking about.
But it's late, and I actually have to get some writing done tonight.
Yeah. You're amazing. I appreciate you.
So are
And
you.
we'll definitely you'll see some things
Okay, and I'm looking forward to it.
when
I'm
when you come
I'm looking forward to it.
when you come to Princeton. You'll see it in person.
I'm about to say I do need to come visit. I do have to come visit.
All right.
I told the wife I was coming to visit, so I'm a woman of my word, and I am going to come visit.
All right. All right. You
All right.
go and get some rest.
Rust is overrated. Good night.
All right. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Started doing a little outro at the end. We ran long, 2 hours. Thank you if you made it this far. Um, it's 10 after 9 right now, and I feel like I've said it all on this one. So yeah, thank you, and I'll log off. And feel free to reach out to me and chime in if you have any thoughts.